be tying the Identity Crisis Sculpin. So I'm going to start this off with a Gamakatsu Globo hook, size 4. So we're going to start with it riding hook point up. So this is how the bug will be riding the whole time. So we're going to start this off, starting with the thread close to the eye. Just going to make a few wraps, just to start it off. So after that, we're going to grab our rabbit fur. So this is standard rabbit fur, this is not microcut. So we're actually going to cut this. So you're going to measure it up. You measure it up to what you think the length of your fly will be. You peel it back and then you cut it at the part. So cut it there. And this is what we're going to do next. So we're going to cut along the middle of the cut. So you do this because it makes it so that the rabbit is a lot thinner than microcut and it moves a lot more. So you're just going to literally cut along the center of it. Okay. So with that, after you're left with 2 pieces. So you pull them apart and you'll have the really sparse one. This is still good for making flies, but that would be even smaller fly. You would cut that back and use it, so it'd be about that long. We're going to use the bigger piece. So this one, you're going to peel all the underfur out and stuff that you cut accidentally. You're left with a very thin piece of rabbit. So right here, you're going to peel this back again. Again, it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch up the piece of rabbit. And you're going to peel it up and make a part again. Right here. And this is what you're going to tie in. Again, the hide pointing so it's to the actual, peel it back a little bit more, towards the bend of the hook. You don't want it so that this is going to be hooking up too much, so you actually are going to want a little bit less. There we go. You're just going to wrap that in 3 times. That's all it needs. Okay, after that, you're going to peel it back, wrap it a couple times, and you're going to whip finish it. You're going to do that twice. Okay. So now that your hook's tied into the rabbit, you're going to flip it back right side up, and you're going to UV glue it. This is just to ensure that it doesn't tear out, because this is the actual part that's going to hook all the fish. Hit it with the light for 15 seconds. Okay. Okay, so now you're going to flip this back up. So now you're going to take, I use Power Pro, green Power Pro. This is 50 pound. This is just stuff that I had laying around. You can also use Dacron, basically anything malleable and braided. So Power Pro is really good though because the color is green. So you're going to cut it up about 4 to 5 inches up. And you're going to make a loop with it, just end to end. Make a bend, okay? So this, you're going to go up, and you're actually going to take your hook out of the vise at this point, and you're going to make it go around the rabbit. You're snelling the hook. Okay. So once you do it, you want to make sure that it's not riding like this. You want it to be behind the eye of the hook. Okay. So once you do that, then you're going to take your bead. This is just a small red bead. As long as it's not too big to the point where it makes it so you can't hook fish, so it doesn't block the hook point, it's a good size. Generally, I think the smaller the better though. So this is a good size bead though. Okay, so after that, you're just going to set this aside. Now, you're going to go to your OPST intruder shank. This is a 1 millimeter, or no, 10 millimeter shank. So the smallest size that they have. And you put this in. Okay, you're going to tie this in right up next to the jaws. And again, this is super important. Make sure that your power pole is not crossed and it's lined up straight. So you're just going to gauge it up right. And you're going to put 2 wraps in it. This is just to secure it so that it doesn't move on you. Now you can pull it to make sure that the length is right. So now you pull it so that this lines up, the front of the rabbit lines up just behind the eye of the shank. And so that there's not too much tension on your trailing loop. Okay, so once you have it all measured up, throw it back and you tie it in. I like to do a loose thread base first. And then you go through the eye of the hook and down. Yeah, we just tie it in tight because this is both a steelhead or trout hybrid fly, so you want to make sure that it's tied in tight. You don't want that power pole slipping on you. Okay, after this, you're going to measure it up with where your thread wraps end right here, and you're going to part your rabbit right there. Again, making sure that it doesn't pull too much, making a loop in your Power Pro. You want actually a little bit of bump on the rabbit so that your Power Pro lanes straight and your bead rides flat. Then you just wrap it in 3 times. Okay? Once you're in there, you're going to take your dubbing. So in this case, I'm using Dark Shade Rainbow Scud Dub. I love it because it has red in it, blue, greens. It's kind of it has a nice sheen to it in the water. You're going to grab a good sized pinch of it. About like that. And this is super important. Line it up because we're going to put this in a dubbing loop. So line it all up, make sure that all the fibers are going in the right way. Pinch it all together, pull it. This is just to ensure that the actual material rides right. So once you have it like that, you're going to make your loop. Thread. We're using 8/0 uni thread for this in olive. The thread or the shanks can be a little bit sharper. They cut them in the factory, so just keep in mind. Okay. So now that you have the dubbing loop, you put it in all the way up close, about an inch away from the fly, then you just spread it out. Make sure that it's all level and even. And then you just spin it. I do it with my fingers. You can use a dubbing tool, a dubbing spinning tool, like the OPST makes one. Here, what makes one, right? Loon makes one too. And then you can also use a dubbing pick, but scissors work really good too. So just pick it out, make sure that all the fibers are all out. Then you just spin it in. Again, pulling back so that none of your material gets trapped in the body. You're going to want to wrap up just past where they cut the shank when they spin it back. So you leave just about 1.5 centimeters. That's where you're going to put your eyes and stuff like that. And then again, we're going to pick it out. Pull it all down because your rabbit's going to go up over the top of this now. So pull it up over the top and then tie it in. Okay, thread there.
Never fails.
Mm-hmm. And if your thread breaks, just put it that way, wrap back over itself, and it makes it good as new. Okay. Wrap it in a couple times, cut your X out. Okay, tie that in. Okay. At this point, we're going to take our Ripple Ice Fiber in Peacock. This stuff is awesome. I have nothing but good things to say about it. It has kind of a greenish, like almost copper hue to it in the water, and it seems like almost in any river that you fish, it changes colors almost. So it's very, very cool stuff and really adds a good minnow kind of effect to it. So there's probably about 10 strands in there. That's about perfect. Any more, I think it's too much. Any less, it's hard to see it, but that's about perfect. So tie it in on one side and then just bring it over to the other. They're about 6 inches long, so it's kind of long, so you can just pull it back, and at whatever length you think is right. I usually like to measure it up with the bead. You just grab it and pull it and break it, and then just kind of brush it out with your fingers. That adds the kind of flashy effect to your fly. Okay, so then you bring it back. Okay, so now we're going to put our eyes on. These are medium black lead eyes. If you were to fish a little bit more, or if you were to fish a large lead eye, there's nothing wrong with that, or a small, it just kind of depends on what water you're fishing and how fast you want your stuff to get down, but generally I think that a medium is a good size. We're going to tie them into the bottom. You don't want to put them right up next to the eye of the hook just because we're going to wrap back over it with rabbit, and you will actually want that little bit of room to work with. So, I'm going to tie them in. Yeah, make sure that they're level, check it on the top, check it on the bottom. Because if your lead eyes are a little bit cockeyed, it makes your whole entire fly ride wrong in the water, so really make sure. All right, so now we're going to take some olive marabou. I'm just going to pluck one quill, make sure that it's all even. I actually like kind of the fluffier pieces for this. It's not like if you were fishing a hobo spay or something like that, that you'd try and find kind of the most pristine pieces. But then with this, you're actually going to pull the top part, so you have kind of the bottom half, the really long fluffy stuff, and the top part, you're actually going to pull that and you're going to throw it away. So you're left with this. So with this, you're going to pull it up and pinch it as if you were making a woolly bugger for the butt of a woolly bugger. You measure it up. So again, I like to make it so it's about the same length as the bead so that you really see the bead really well. And you're going to cut it. Okay, so you're going to hold on to this with this hand, and with these fingers you're going to make a dubbing loop. Okay? So this, you're actually going to spin this. So you put this in the dubbing loop right here. And you spread it out. The benefits of spinning marabou versus just wrapping marabou like most people do is that it has a uniform length. With really small minnow patterns like this, it's really important that you have a uniform length because otherwise it just looks like it's overdone and overdressed. So right here, you spin it, and then you start to wrap. Wrap it in just a couple times just to secure it. Okay, so now what you're going to do, this is a full dyed olive grizzly hackle pelt. What you're going to do is you're going to look for these little short pieces of hackle at the very bottom, stuff like that. You're going to pull those. These are actually going to make the wings of the sculpin, because at the very butt, or the fins of the sculpin. Because every sculpin has very obvious protruding wings on, or fins on the sides of them. So this is going to be really good. So you're going to measure these up again, a little bit shorter than the bead, but not much. And you're just going to pull the excess. Like that. So there's a side of this where the feather naturally bends, where it's been laying in the package or if it was just on the bird itself. So where it naturally bends, you put it on the fly so it actually bends towards the fly. Makes it lay a little bit nicer. You're going to tie it in on each side. Again, making sure that it is even and level with the other side. You want it about halfway on the fly. You leave these tag ends because you actually go back on it. You go back and tie them in this way because otherwise they might slip out. It's just another way to secure them really well. You do that on each side again. Okay, so then you just cut your excess. Okay. So now you take another piece of rabbit. So this is darker than the bottom half. You want kind of a dark olive for this. Because naturally a sculpin usually has bars on it, like this barred rabbit, and also it tapers in color, a lot of them. So you kind of want to match the color of your marabou for this, or even a little bit darker in this case. So now what you're going to do is you're going to measure up about a pinch of this. So you're about like that. What you're going to do is you're going to pinch it and then cut it right up next to the hide. Again, about an inch is a perfect length of it. So you cut it and make sure that it's all level, like that. It's perfect. And again, with these fingers, you make another loop. This is making the head of the sculpin, because sculpins have a very big, pronounced head. It's kind of the defining trait of the sculpin. So you're going to put the rabbit in the dubbing loop, and you're going to just lightly push, lightly push on it just so that it's all even. You don't want to push too much because otherwise it might fall out of it. But now you just spread it all evenly. The thinner the better, especially for this last part. It'll make it so that it goes on a lot more evenly. And when you spread it out, it should be about 3 inches long. That gives you enough room to work with. Scissors work really good too, kind of separate the clumps. The more even that you get this, the better your fly will look in the end. So now, again, you just push them all down. And something I like to do also is I actually cut it to a uniform length. So that it's like this. So now, move your thread out of the way and get it up near the eye. Now you spin. Again, your marabou's going to want to get caught up with the rabbit, so just kind of push it out of the way. Some people wet their fingers too, that works really good. So now, you're all spun up. So now, 2 wraps to the collar of it, and then 1 wrap over the eyes like this, another wrap, and then 2 wraps in the front. Then you can actually pull that excess if there's too much. Just tie it in. Okay, and at this point, you just go around and you pluck all the rabbit out because it wants to get all caught up in itself. You just want to be really careful not to cut the actual thread itself that you used to wrap it in. Alright, so now, push all back, do another wrap, and then whip finish it. Do it twice. Cut it off. Then you're going to hit it with a final base of UV glue. Sure to get it all the way around. Hit it with 15 seconds. Alright, and there you have it. That is the identity crisis sculpin, because it doesn't know whether or not it's a trout fly or a steelhead fly. Thanks for watching.